The President, please be seated. The court is now back in session. We now would like to hand over to counsel for Mr. Kyusampan to continue putting questions to the witness. You may proceed.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good day to you once again, Mr. Mao. I hope you've had time to relax a little during the break that we held. I'd like to come back to the question that I was asking you earlier on. And as I have asked before, do please pay proper attention to the questions I'm asking and give as precise answers as you can. And my question is to ask you if, apart from your post on the village committee and subsequently on the commune committee, did you hold any other positions during democratic Cambodia?
Response. During the democratic Cambodia regime, I was a member of the village committee. Then I was promoted to the position of a member of the commune committee.
And apart from those two positions, did you hold any others, yes or no?
Response. No. I worked in the commune only.
Yesterday, when you were answering a question from my learned colleague from the Nunchia team, just a tiny bit after let me just check the transcript.
Excusez-moi.
I apologize for that. A little bit after 10:28 in the provisional transcript from yesterday, with your kind leave, Mr. President, I would like this draft to be put up on the screens, and I would like my colleague Konsam Un to read in Khmer the excerpt that I'm referring to in that transcript.
The President, you may proceed. Counsel Kong Som-on. Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to read the statement the witness Nu Mau already testified. Response. Chan Si. At that time, I did not know this well because my memory has lost, and I don't know whether he knew this or not because I got wounded in the battlefield and I had to continue buying medicines from Phnom Penh to cure my sickness, and I could not go anywhere because I was very emaciated and I couldn't do anything else.
Hier donc,
Mr. Witness, yesterday you therefore told us that you were wounded on the battlefield. And yesterday, when you were answering a question from my colleague from the Nuntia team, you said that you had never held any kind of military rank. Can you explain to the Chamber in what circumstances you were wounded on the battlefield?
Response. I believe that it happened at the rear when I did not get injured yet.
mon confrère m'a dit.
My colleague says that we may have some communication problems here. The excerpt was read back to you just now from your declaration, your statement rather, of yesterday, in which you said that you had been wounded on the battlefield. And so my question is, if you never held any military rank, in what circumstances were you wounded?
Response. Yes, I got wounded, but that happened afterward. When I was interviewed by the journalist, I was not yet injured. The injury was sustained at a later date. I got injured because I fell off the hammock.
Monsieur le témoin.
Mr. Witness, I read out what you said yesterday, and there was no reference to a hammock. You talked about being wounded on the battlefield. So yes or no, were you wounded on the battlefield?
Response. In the battlefield, actually, I did not get injured, but later on, bombs were dropped by a plane, and because of the bombs, I got injured in Phnom Penh location. And indeed, the bomb was dropped, and I fell from the hammock, and the fall caused great injury to my shoulder, and my shoulder was displaced, and when I coughed, I could see blood was coming. So that's what happened.
Je vais passer à.
Let's move on. You told us that your health problems meant to you being withdrawn from your duties in the commune. Am I understanding your statement correctly?
Response. Yes, It is correct. I was removed because I got wounded and I could no longer be useful.
Est-ce que vous vous souvenez?
Do you remember roughly the date when you stopped your position you held in the Commune? Was it a good deal of time before the Khmer Rouge victory?
Response. It was during the time when cooperatives were established to receive people who had been evacuated from Phnom Penh.
Et vous ne vous souvenez?
Do you remember the year?
Response. No, I don't remember.
Je voudrais
I'd like to show the witness an excerpt from Ben Kiernan's notes on the subject in document D313-1.2.405. ERN in Khmer is 009009938. In French, 00893-547. In English, 00419-460. In the French text, it's the last paragraph. And with your permission, Mr. President, we'll put this on the screen. These are the notes that were taken during the interview. And according to Ben Kiernan, you tell him that you were sick, and after 1974 you were losing blood. In 1975, I was evacuated to Kumvan in Kampong Speu after the evacuation. Now, does this trigger your memory, Mr. Witness? Was this in 1974 when you fell ill or were injured?
Response. I fell ill in the year when the cooperatives were being established. And at that time, did not consider me as an important member of the committee, and they stopped using me already, and I had no more rights as a member.
Mr. Witness, given those facts, is it fair to assert that the education sessions that you talked about before this chamber took place before you fell ill? The education sessions with Tamok or the ones with Chow Si?
Response. That happened before I did not fall ill, and I was still a member of the commune committee, and Jansi and Tamok. Convene.
Monsieur le témoin, excusez-moi. Excusez-moi.
Excuse me. I apologize for interrupting, but I'm asking precise questions. We're moving step by step so as to avoid any confusion, and you confirmed to me that this was before. So now I'm going to ask you questions about these education sessions. And the first question is about the one with Tamok. First, was there one education session with Tamok or several?
Response. People who participate, I only attended the sessions lectured by Chan Si, not by Tamok.
Hier,
Mr. Witness, yesterday you told us that you attended education sessions given by Tamok. Will you confirm that now?
Response. My statement remains the same. I attended the session chaired by Chu Chet, and later on, by near the end of the session, then Tamok also came to give lecture.
The question I'm asking is... No, let me put it in another way. You told us that the education session with Chuchet took place in the Tbong district to the north of Wat Geotok. That was yesterday, just before 10:08. Is that where the education session with Chuchet took place?
Response. The place where we attended the session was to the north of that pagoda near the river bank, and the session lasted for about 1 month, and all cadres from different communes were invited to attend the session. And these cadres who were in the political sections were all invited to attend the session, and the session was conducted at a school.
D'accord. Merci.
Thank you for those details, Mr. Witness. Once again, I am asking you to stick as closely as you can in your answers to the questions I'm asking, which I'm trying to make as precise as possible. If I need further details, I will ask you. My time is limited, you must understand, and if we carry on like this, I won't be able to get to the end of my questioning in the time I have. So, you talked to us about this education session, and if I have made the right interpretation of what you said just now, you said that during a one-month training session, Tamok, somewhere towards the end of the session, came to address the gathering. And so the question I want to ask you is, apart from that one-month session in the Tbong district, did you attend any other training sessions that were given by Tamok?
Response. I attended the study session as I already emphasized. The session convened by Chu Chet on political matters, and later by the end of the session, then Tamok was also involved in lecturing on military.
Excuse me, Mr. Witness. I really am sorry to interrupt once again, but you have just repeated to me what you have already said. Mine was a different question. What I want to know is, apart from that training session that you've just told me about, and I entirely understood what you were saying, apart from that one, were there other education sessions with Tamok at another time?
Response. No, I did not attend any other sessions lectured by Tamok again.
Thank you for that information. You also mentioned Uyun yesterday at 11:21, and I'll just find the references for that.
(11h21)
11:21. With your permission, Mr. President, I'd like the draft transcript to be placed on the screen so that the witness can follow it. Yesterday you said that Uyun came to chair a gathering and the place you mentioned was Wat Tenko. Do you remember what you said yesterday, and do you confirm that Huyun came to Wat Tempo to chair a gathering?
Response. I attended that session along with other cadres from the sector level who also attended the session when matter regarding evacuation was discussed, and I heard that he argued that when we won the victory, then population should not be evacuated. That's what I heard from him. I think he talked a lot more than this. He talked a lot more than this, but I just don't recollect all.
Monsieur le témoin.
Mr. Witness, do you remember the year it was when Hu Yun came to chair that gathering? Can you recall this?
Response: no, I can't. I cannot recall the year, and again, I wish not to speculate.
Je souhaiterais
With the permission of the President, I'd like to show Ben Kierland's notes, document D313-1.2.405 ER in Khmer 00909939, in French 008935548, and in English 004194661. In the French version, it's roughly in the middle of the page. These are the notes that Mr. Benkianen took when you had your interview, and this is what you said. I saw Hu Yun only once in 1972 at Dang Wat Po at a meeting or a party, but I didn't meet him personally. He didn't mention the Vietnamese president, only the popular movement at the start of 1973. Now, do these notes trigger anything in your memory, Mr. Witness? Was it in 72 or the start of 73 that you saw Hu Yun at that gathering at Deng Wat Po?
I do not recall the year or the months of that year. To my recollection, Mr. Hu Yun, who came to brief all the cadres, he said, upon victory, we must not evacuate people. I did not know him clearly at that time. He briefed the cadres who were from the commune, district and sectors. He actually touched touched upon many matters ranging from economics to political matters. A lot of issues were addressed in his speech, but what I recall was that he said upon victory we must not evacuate the people.
Est-ce que, Monsieur le témoin,
Witness, although you do not remember the exact date, do you confirm what I have just read out to you from Ben Kiernan's notes? That is to say that you only saw Ho Yun at Wat Teng Po only once?
Yes, that is correct.
est-ce que vous avez assisté à d'autres rassemblements
Did you attend other meetings at Wat Teng Po?
Later, I did not attend any meeting in Tpong district anymore. And upon the training at Wat Tang Po in Tpong district, our commune committee members were never called for meeting in that place again.
Je vous remercie de ces précisions.
Thank you for this clarification. So you only saw Hu Yun once. This morning, responding to a question put to you by my learned colleague of the Nuanchia defense team, Mr. Kope, you stated that you did not know whether Hunim was in favor or against the evacuation. That question was put to you between 9:45 and 10 a.m. according to my notes. You stated that you did not know Hunim's position. I would now like to have placed on the screen a passage from your statement of yesterday, and I will ask my colleague to read it out to you. In that passage, you indicate the position of Hunim and the position of Keo Sampan, and it's the record at 11:23. My learned colleague, Kom Sang On, will read out to you what you said yesterday.
Council Kung Samon, with Mr. President leave, I would like to read out, quote, according to the position of Mr. Keo Sampon, he was in favor of the evacuation of the people. Ho Jun was against the evacuation, and Ho Nim did not or were not in favor of evacuation of people either. Thank you, Mr. President.
Donc, Monsieur le témoin,
A witness, I have just read out to you your statement of yesterday, and you stated in that statement that Hunim was not in favor of the evacuation and that Keo Sampan, for his part, was favorable to that evacuation. That is what you stated yesterday. And this morning at 9:45, in any case between 9:45 and 10 a.m., you said you did not know whether Hunim was in favor of the evacuation or not. Regarding Hunim, Can you tell the chamber what his position was?
I did not know about Hu Nim's position. What I stated earlier was about Hu Jun's position during the gathering in Wat Tang Po Pagoda, and I had never known Hu Jun before that gathering. And as for Mr. Khieu Samphan, I never attended any meeting addressed by Mr. Khieu Samphan. And as for Hu Jun, he convened this gathering. He only made mention that if we conquered the war, we did not need to evacuate the people. That's what Hu Yun said in his address to the gathering. As for Mr. Hu Nam and Mr. Khieu Samphan, I never met them and I never knew them either.
Je comprends bien votre réponse.
I very well understand your answer, witness. But here again, I would want my learned colleague Kong Sam-on to read part of your testimony yesterday, and it is still the draft transcript. And this time around, it is shortly after 9:27, or rather 11:27, and here you are talking about the position of Khieu Samphan, and the question put to you by the co-prosecutor was as follows: how did you know that Khieu Samphan was in favor of the evacuation? And this is your answer. It will be read out to you in Khmer.
Consul Kung Samon. Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to read the quote. Question: how did you know that Khieu Samphan was in favor of the evacuation plan? Response: I knew it during the gathering at Tang Po Pagoda, but I never knew Mr. Khieu Samphan. That's correct. Hu Nam, Hu Jun, Khieu Samphan, I did not know them. And I only learned about it when I came to attend the gathering at Tang Po Pagoda. End quote. Thank you, Mr. President.
Donc,
so it transpires from the answer you gave yesterday that it was at that meeting held at Wat Tang Po that you got to know what Khieu Samphan and Hu Nim's positions were. Can you tell the chamber whether or not you knew Khieu Samphan's position regarding the evacuation of Phnom Penh?
No, I did not know his position. As I said, I knew the position of Mr. Hu Yun, who addressed the gathering at the time, that evacuation of people from the city was not needed. As for Mr. Khieu Samphan and Mr. Hu Nim, I did not know them, and when I was attending that gathering, I did not know them either. That is it.
je vous remercie de ces précisions, Monsieur le témoin.
Thank you for this clarification, witness. I'll go into another line of questioning, and I will soon be done. You stated that you only attended a single...
The President, please hold on, Madam Counsel. Mr. Prosecutor, you may proceed.
Mr. President, I can only invite my learned friend to clarify, but in answer to the last question, with the extract having been read out from 11:28 from the transcript, the first point I wish to make, that the question that was put was that the witness had found out at the meeting at Wat Tang Po what Khieu Samphan and Hugh Nim's positions were. The actual extract with my question was, how had you found out or discovered that Khieu Samphan was in favour of the evacuation? So my question did not address Hugh Nim, but it's been represented that my question did. And the second observation I have is that with the question being framed, did you know what Khieu Samphan's position was regarding the evacuation? It's implicit in the answer that the witness thought that the question went to his position generally and not his view or his line or another word about the evacuation. In my respectful submission, this should be cleared up.
Oui.
Yes, Mr. President. Here again, I can understand why the co-prosecutor is somewhat in a fix. But I precisely made sure the statement of the witness was cited extensively to avoid interpretation problems as to what the witness specifically said. And in my question, I was particularly attentive to focus on the question put to Hunim and the question put to the witness regarding Mr. Khieu Samphan. And the witness's answer is clear. It is not in line with the expectations of the prosecutor. It is not what the witness stated yesterday. And today, I have tried to avoid any confusion in my questions by citing the Khmer transcript to make sure this wouldn't pose any problem. So I request the chamber not to take the co-prosecutor's objection into account, and I also request the chamber's leave to complete my examination of the witness.
The President, Counsel, you may continue your line of questioning, and please indicate the time you expect to conclude your questioning of this witness, because your request time of 45 minutes has already lapsed. The President, please hold on, Counsel. Mr. Numa, if you have anything to say.
Monsieur le Président, je ne sais pas quel est...
Mr. President, I do not know what the witness's health status is. I have only 5 additional minutes to put questions to the witness on Tamok. And if the witness is not in a position to take any further questions, I wouldn't mind ending my examination of the witness here. But if I can ask questions for the next 5 minutes, I will do so. But if he cannot take any further questions, I wouldn't mind wrapping up my examination of the witness at this juncture.
The President. Mr. Prosecutor, you may proceed.
Mr. President, I do rise at this stage because this evidence in my submission is being left in an unsatisfactory position. If the prosecution had the right of re-examination, we would. We do not. The juxtaposition of the use of the word position with the answer, I did not know him, I did not know either of them, leaves this important piece of evidence unclarified. I cannot re-examine. The cross-examination is moving, I think, to another point. All I can do in these circumstances is to invite you or other judges of the court to clarify the answers given by the witness at some stage. Thank you.
Je pensais, Monsieur le Président, que vous avez...
Mr. President, I had thought you had already ruled on the objection, and I don't know why the prosecutor is revisiting that matter.
The President, Counsel, you may resume your last questioning because you have only 5 more minutes. Other additional questions will not be entertained.
Je vous remercie.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Witness, one last issue I would like to put questions to you on has to do with Tamok. You stated that he was in charge of military affairs. Before this chamber, Mr. Chukrin, a witness who was a soldier, came to testify. My first question to you is, do you know Mr. Chukrin?
No, I don't.
À l'audience,
at the 23 April 2013 hearing, shortly before 11:23 a.m. and also shortly after 15:49 p.m., that witness stated that Tamok used a slogan which was well known, and it is translated into French as follows: above Tamok, was nothing but his hat. And the same witness pointed out, and may I request Mr. President's leave to show this witness the slogan or the extract of the hearing of the 23rd of April 2003, 1/8/1.1 after 1549. This is what that witness said by way of description of Tamok. When Tamok, for instance, ordered the troops to do this or that, for instance, to go and engage in fighting, that had to be done. If I did not draw up a detailed report, he could bring out his firearm and shoot at us. There were times when he was good, and at times he was very cruel. End of quote. Witness: within the west and northwest zones, did you hear anyone talk about such incidents regarding Tamok? And does it tally with what you know of Tamok's character and his reputation at the time?
I am trying to recollect. I cannot recollect it because it has been quite a long time now.
Eh bien, Monsieur le témoin,
Very well, witness. I will allow you to take a well-deserved rest because I have no further questions for you. I thank you, Mr. President, for the additional 5 minutes you have granted me.
The President, I hand over to Judge Silver Cartwright. You may proceed, Judge.
Thank you, President. The Chamber wishes to respond to the prosecutor's comment a few minutes ago, simply to say that it notes the comment and will take it into account when the Chamber evaluates this witness's evidence. Thank you, President.
The President. Thank you, Judge. Mr. Numau, your testimony has come to an end now, and you are no longer needed before the Chamber, and the Chamber wishes to thank you for taking your time to testify before the Chamber over the last 2 days. We note that you have endeavored to answer all the questions put by all parties involved. We hope that your testimony will contribute to ascertaining the truth, and we wish you the best of luck and good health. And the time is now appropriate for the adjournment. The Chamber will adjourn now, and we will resume hearing on Monday, the 23rd, starting from 9 o'clock in the morning. And on Monday, we will start hearing the key document presentation by the parties. This is for the information for all parties concerned, as well as the support staff and members of public. International Counsel for Mr. Kyu Sampon, you may proceed.
Oui, merci, Monsieur le Président.
Yes, Mr. President. I would also like to make my remarks, because if I have properly understood the Chamber's decision, as voiced by Judge Cartwright, the Chamber will take into account the co-prosecutor's comments. I have not had an opportunity to respond to those comments, and it is my view that if the Chamber is to take into account the co-prosecutor's comments, the principle of adversarial debate entitles me to also respond to the comments of the co-prosecutor, because our analysis of the situation is different from the co-prosecutors. If the Chamber is to take into account the co-prosecutor's comments, the Chamber should also take into account the defense's comments.
Court officer is now instructed to assist the witness in cooperation with the Wesu unit for the arrangement of his transport back home. Mr. Numal and Mr. Momratir, you are now released. You may leave the courtroom now. The Chamber have the final issue of the day to discuss.
The President, both councils, if you would like to say a few words, you may now proceed, both parties to the proceedings.
Je vous remercie, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. President. If my understanding was correct of the comment made by the co-prosecutor, there is apparently some confusion in the way of asking a question using the word position relating to Kyu Sampon. We don't have the day's transcripts, but we will have them shortly. When the witness answered my question, and when I asked him if he was aware of Mr. Kyu Sampon's position about the evacuation, in the French translation, I don't know how it was in English, he said that if he had been able to know Hu Yun's position at the time, it was because he would have communicated it to him at the meeting at Wat Cheng Po. And meanwhile, he did not know Kyu Sampon's position, nor that of Hu Nim about the evacuation. It was said clearly, and so today, if the idea that there is some confusion does not really correspond to facts in the Chamber. Moreover, at several points during his testimony, and this is also a point doubtless that the Chamber will come back to when it evaluates the transcripts, the witness did say certain things and then the direct opposite, perhaps because he has forgotten, perhaps because he is confused, perhaps because certain questions were leading questions, but when the witness answered my question, which clearly said that it was Mr. Kyo Sompon's position with respect to the evacuation of Phnom Penh. There was no lack of clarity. So I do find that the prosecutor's position of claiming that there is confusion because he doesn't like the response, just as the response didn't please him particularly yesterday during the hearing when the witness first said that he did not know Kyu Sompon's position. There again, I don't believe that this is a faithful reflection of what happened in the hearing. The Chamber has told us that it will take account of the co-prosecutor's comments, and I think everything will be a great deal clearer when we have all of the transcript and we can refer to it, including today's. Those are the comments, Mr. President, that I wanted to make at this juncture. Thank you.
The President, thank you. Mr. Co-Prosecutor, you may now proceed.
Mr. President, I'll be brief. It's when the question elicits the answer, I did not know him, in relation to Kyu Sompong. In other words, the witness believes that the question is addressing whether he knew Kyu Sompong or not. There was then the use of the word position. So, did you know Kyu Sompong's position, having asked lots of questions about hierarchy? All I invite you to do is to have regard to today's transcript when you ultimately consider this position, and also have regard to yesterday's transcript when at 11:28.17, not mentioning Hu Nim at all in my question, I asked, how had you found out or discovered that Kyu Sompong was in favour of the evacuation? And the answer was, I learned about this during the assembly held at Wat Tang Po. It's a matter for your honours to have regard to all the evidence when you have the transcripts available. Thank you.
The President, Counsel, please proceed.
Oui.
Well, there's one point we will agree on, myself and the prosecution, that we should both look at the transcript of the hearing. But let me state once again that if I was careful to point to the answer in Khmer of the witness, it was precisely so as to avoid any translation problems. The Chamber will appreciate the situation from the transcripts, but obviously the prosecution's position and mine is not the same as this, and it will be the transcripts that will enlighten us for the final decision, I believe. Thank you, Mr. President.
The President, thank you. We would like to inform parties to the proceedings that definitely the Chamber will rely on the record of the transcript of the proceedings when the Chamber deliberates on the property value of the evidence collected during the proceedings. The Chamber will have to review all the evidence being presented during the hearing from the very beginning until the conclusion of the evidentiary evidence hearing. Without any further observation, then the Chamber would like to conclude this session now, and security personnel are now directed to bring Mr. Kyu Sompong and Nuon Chea back to the detention facility and have them return to the courtroom by Monday, the 24th of June 2013 by 9 a.m. Mr. Nuon Chea is directed to be returned to his holding cell downstairs where he can observe the proceedings through audio-visual link. The court is adjourned.
សូមអញ្ជើញក្រោកឈរ